Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Representative Lydia Crafts. We're here for the work session on LD 2213, and we'll start with introductions.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim White, District 30. I represent the good people of Piscataquis County and two towns in Somerset.
Hi, everybody. Dan Ankleys, House District 100, Central part of Brunswick.
I'm Senator Tim Nangle. I represent Senate District 26, which is part of the Lakes region in Cumberland County.
Representative Steve Bishop from Bucksport, District 17.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Montel and I represent House District 54, Farmingdale and Gardner.
Representative Roger Albert, representing the Crown of Maine, St. John Valley, and Aroostook County.
Michael Ray, House District 40, a little bit of coastal Maine. Towns of I'm from Lincolnville and I represent surrounding towns.
Representative Holly Eaton, also coastal Maine, House District 15. I live in Deer Isle and I represent surrounding island and coastal communities.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wayne Perry. I represent House District 140, which covers Arundel, Dayton, and about half of Lyman.
And I'm Lydia Crafts of House District 46, which includes the towns of Bristol, Damascata, Newcastle, Noblesboro, and Monhegan Island. I think we are going to wait just a moment for, okay, Suzanne Voynick will be joining us in just a moment. Welcome, Suzanne. No, thank you for being. Senator Nangle was able to sneak down, so we got started quickly.
Except we can't vote, nothing.
So the yellow pages are the change package that was presented by the governor. And I'll just wait for everybody to have that packet. So on page 1, the first one is adding an initiative to the budget. And it provides funding for the approved reorg of 4 public safety mechanics positions to 6, I guess, auto mechanic 3 positions. And there's a $10,887 cost to the highway fund, and you can just ignore the general fund piece. So that's in addition to the budget. The next page is to the state police support. Provides funding for the approved reclass of one office associate 2 position to an office specialist 1 position effective November 17th, 2025. And this is a cost of $6,029. Moving on to page 3, traffic safety, commercial vehicle enforcement. This is also an additional initiative. Provides funding for the approved reorg of 8 public safety mechanic positions to 8 auto mechanic 3 positions. Cost of $13,975. Page 4 is an add to the administration motor vehicles program. Provides funding for the approved reorg of 1 public service coordinator position from range 26 to range 28. $7,222. And the next one is provides funding for the approved reorg of 4 customer rep associate 2 positions to office specialist 1 positions at a cost of $21,440. The next one is in DOT. It's in highway and bridge capital. It provides allocation to spend Garvey bond proceeds for highway and bridge needs. This is another special revenue funds allocation of 50 million. And you'll see a related language piece when we get to that. The next initiative provides funding to align allocations with projected expenditures and available resources. This one is revising the amount in 26-27 to $1,385,912. So it's just a revision. And the next one is also, this is reorg reclassifications, and this is also revising the amounts. You can see the new amounts in the revised piece, the second one down. And this also relates to an initiative on page 19, reference 51 to 53. It's just revising those amounts. And then we have some language. The first piece of language on page 1 of that document removes Part D, excuse me. And that particular language was the one that had the carry forward language on the Bureau of Corporations and Elections that didn't belong in your budget. So the change package did move it to the general fund budget. The next one is a revision to Part F of the budget. And I think it's just it's just changing the amounts. Is that correct? Changing the amounts in Part F.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yep.
Oh, and it looks like it's also changing the fiscal year in which transfers are made. The next piece of language on page 3 is programmed Garvey bonding level for 26-27 biennium. And it is adding language for Garvey bond of $50 million for that biennium, which also went along with that other special revenue funds allocation that you saw previously in this change package. And that is all for the change package.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Any immediate questions from committee members for Suzanne? Can you remind us, as far as the change package goes, do we need to vote in initiatives as we do with the supplemental?
Well, you should probably vote in these, vote in or amend these change package items. There's also, because there's a large hole in the highway fund budget right now. So there's a piece of language in the general fund change package that would transfer approximately 13 million. I don't remember the exact amount from the general fund to the highway fund. And they have, AFA has not dealt with that yet. So I don't know what might happen with that, but that does pay for everything in the change package. And it does fill that gap, and it leaves a small balance in 26-27.
Okay, and if there were issues remaining after AFA does its work, we would just come back to assess if this committee needed to make any additional
Well, what you could
changes.
do is either hold the budget open and not vote it fully out, or send it out, but not send it to the floor yet. And then if you need to bring it back, you can come back in or fix it with a floor amendment, however you wanted to do it.
Representative Perry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Has AFA voted out or voted in those split things that we've done in ours? And
They have done some of them, and I don't remember which one. They have only voted out one thing that you also voted out. And it was transferring the state police detective and the SBY specialist position from the Gambling Control Board. I think that's the one they voted out.
they voted in the
I can't remember.
Turnpike,
One of
right?
these they voted out, and the rest of them they have not dealt with yet. So there's a lot of this, all the positions that you voted out in the state police, there's
Yeah.
only one position that they voted out. The rest of them are still open. And I'm sorry, I don't remember which one it was that they voted out.
Okay, thanks.
But all of those are still open, and I didn't bring my general fund piece down, so I don't. I think they did vote in some of the funding for the increase in the rent. They voted that in. And then the rest of them, I think the approved reorganizations were approved in, but all those positions, which a lot of it was positions, they only voted one of those initiatives out. The rest of it is still open. They haven't done anything with it yet. So I don't know what might happen with those upstairs.
Okay.
And they have not discussed that language with the transfer, so I don't know what'll happen with that either.
Okay. I'd like to invite Commissioner Sawchuk up, please.
Good afternoon, Mike Sawchuk, Commissioner for the Department of Public Safety. Good to see everybody.
Thank you for being here, Commissioner. I wanted to bring up a couple, Suzanne, I wanted to jump back into a couple of the initiatives from the supplemental. We had some conversations, and I just wanted to look at reference number 5, which we had discussed around the EPU and establishing 4 state police detective positions. Commissioner, we had some conversations, and I wondered if there was anything you wanted to share with the committee or concerns that have come up since we took that initiative up.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Madam Chair. So reference 5 does speak to this 4 state police detective positions. The members of the Executive Protection Unit are detectives within the Maine State Police. That's where there's that terminology that comes into play here. The narrative that we read you during the initial testimony is pretty light, and it's pretty light because it's a topic that's difficult for us to discuss in an open forum. So when we talk about safety and security issues, certainly protection issues of an elected official, in this term, it's Governor Mills, who it's going to be in January, could be any party, could be any scenario, is unknown to us. And truthfully, we don't care as far as protection goes. We want to provide the best protection possible for that individual, period. So in this case, what I would say is that the Capitol Police have seen a 180% increase in threats over the last 4 years. That is to legislators, that is to employees, that is to this complex in general. And I also think that just looking at the world as we know it, as crazy as it is out there with assassination attempts, again, not party specific across the board, homicides, murders that have occurred in other states. There are certainly concerns that we have. And I can't tell you that we're going to have 4 additional EPUs and this is exactly what we're going to do with them. Like this is the new tactic that we're going to use, and we're going to add this in. For obvious reasons, I think this group's been around a long time. But what I would say is that we are looking at other options in better ways to provide additional security to whoever that governor is now or moving forward.
Do any committee members have questions for the commissioner? Representative Perry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, because we have had issues in the committee over my whole time about the splits and everything else. Why wouldn't this governor protection detail come out of the governor's own personal budget that she gets? Why is this coming out of highway for a protection detail for the governor?
Well, I think when we talk about that 65-35% split, that's covering across the board, right? We discussed this a couple times just in this session alone, and probably every session since at least I've been here, is that where that split comes from, you would probably know better than I. But we only have a couple of units. Traffic safety, as an example, that's 100% highway. We have computer crimes, that's 100% general fund. These are main state police positions. And as an entity that could come out and work, on the highway, I think it just naturally falls under that split, just like any of those other trooper positions do.
But it wouldn't follow up, Madam Chair. But traffic safety has to do with roads, highways, all that is picked up 100%.
Sure.
So if we're going to do a 65-35 split on state police, shouldn't it be everything? If we're going to cover details or the governor's security or things that have zero to do with highway, but highway's picking up 100% of the highway costs on traffic safety, it's money that the highway fund doesn't have to continue to keep going with this. So I'm trying to figure out, for the same reason that traffic safety is 100% traffic and highway picks up all of it, stuff that has zero to do with highway should be picked up the other way. And I know we're not going to fix that here today, but these are positions that have zero to do with the highway fund.
Yeah, I mean, I think Representative, that we look at computer crimes as an example. There's not an investigation in the state that doesn't involve some kind of technology. That's 100% general fund. So if we want to have that conversation about what's split and what's not split, I certainly think a position like the governor's position, again, doesn't matter who's in it or when this occurs, has an impact on the highway system as well as any other system that we have across the board. So I would argue that I think it's still a fit in that scenario. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand the cuts and the concerns around the highway fund and its safety and security one way or the other. But I do think the system that I've inherited and that we all work within is 65-35% split. These are Maine State Police detectives, just like any other detective. Your homicide detectives have that split. How much work are they doing on the highway? I can't tell you that one way or the other from a percentage standpoint, but this does seem to fit into the formula that we have in front of us at this particular time. But
Commissioner, thank you. Can you describe I don't fully understand the EPU and what that looks like professionally. Is that a role that other state troopers can easily transfer? Like, can you move staffing around easily between units?
so the Executive Protection Unit does have specialized training, and that training is very specific to that role. A lot of it is taught by the Secret Service and other entities. So talk about best practices and cutting edge information. That's what they're dealing with day in and day out. So no, if there's a vacancy, if there's something like that, we just can't naturally plug and play another trooper off the road to fill that role because they don't have that skill set. They don't have that knowledge, skills, and abilities to fill that role, again, no matter who's sitting in that position.
Okay, thank you. The other question that I wanted to discuss was reference number 8 on page 2. The 5 positions for the red flag. Can you talk to us about the structure? I guess when I think about the breakdown of those positions, right, 457,000 is our 35% share. Can you describe the need for each of the, like why you need the full command structure?
Yeah, sure. And you asked some really good questions about these positions in an earlier hearing, which I appreciated. So for us to kind of set some context around this, if we think about yellow flags in general, yellow flags are actually served on an individual that's within protective custody and probably 99% of the time are already in a hospital setting. So we have them in custody. We know where they are. We know they're not armed, and they are seeking help for a mental health crisis. So if we talk about 615 yellow flags in 2025, so 615 times an officer took somebody in protective custody, it's thousands of times they take them in protective custody, 615 times where it ends up being a yellow flag scenario. So we believe that they are safer in that atmosphere. Our officers are safer. The community is safer. So when red flag came about, the concern from law enforcement was primarily around how do we serve these notices to an individual that's in their residence in a location. They know we're coming. We're literally going to go knock on the door and say, we believe there's a dangerous scenario here. Whatever that scenario is, the courts will decide that. And we'd like to have your dangerous weapons face to face in that situation. So from an officer safety perspective, from an individual's perspective, and from a community perspective, we thought we lost ground with red flag versus yellow. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of good reasons for a red flag, I think. And either way, it passed, right? So we are here to try to implement this particular statute. So when we think about 615 yellows, let's say a third of those all of a sudden turn into reds next year. And as somebody that was around when yellow started till today, and I've read probably 99% of those narratives to see exactly what's happening, myself and a couple others do that. I read them every day. That if a third of those end up going red, and you've got 200 people that now are in their residences, and we're cold knocking the house to say, hey, we're here for your dangerous weapons, versus those 200 being in a hospital setting where, again, they're safe, we're safe, we know they're not armed, that we think that that's a concern. And what we know is that yellow flag started slow, and then we had Lewiston clearly, and then it really excelled from there to now, having 615 of them in 1 year. That averages out about 1.5 of those a day. So I wish I had an exact science to say, well, the 5 is, this is how we do the math on that. But the reality is that our tactical team, our concern is that they're going to get called out more to help serve these orders on behalf of your communities. The vast majority of specialty team call outs that the Maine State Police do, they don't do for the Maine State Police. They do for other communities that we serve. And we provide that service for free in the sense that we don't send somebody a bill after the fact. So if these TAC team members responded 118 times last year alone, they were requested 258 times. So 258 times, somebody called the TAC team and said, we think we have a problem that would merit a tactical team response. We did a threat matrix and said, okay, we hear you, but we responded 118, which means we're not just naturally going to every one of these because it's fun. Where's a threat matrix to tell us these are the ones that fit and these are the ones that don't fit. That's a national, international best practice for that matter. So again, if we think how busy they are now, and then we think, okay, so let's add 100 red flags, let's add whatever that number ultimately is, how do we provide that service at the same time we're providing these TAC team call outs that we're already seeing year in and year out? So the idea here, if we look at a lieutenant and a corporal and then 3 specialists, the tactical team itself has a team commander, but we would argue a red flag scenario, the same way as yellows. The most important component of that from a law enforcement perspective is the threat assessment. Let's get all the information in that we need to make this decision one way or the other. So it doesn't have a lieutenant as a commander, which is a traditional commander role for the Maine State Police. So this lieutenant would come in, oversee the TAC team as a whole. And because of the structure, they would also oversee the crisis negotiator team, which is probably 90% of a TAC team call out, a negotiator's going with them as well. Certainly with anything of substance, a barricade or something like that. We've had a couple of those this week alone. They're naturally going to go to those. If your tactical team only sends 6 people because they're going to do traffic stop or something like that, we wouldn't necessarily send a negotiator with them directly. So when we say lieutenant, that would be a lieutenant that now oversees those 2 specialty units. And that would be the individual that's doing assessments for these red flags. And I think would roll over to naturally do the assessments for yellows as necessary. There's a tiny component of yellows where an individual is not in protective custody. So then you talk about a corporal. The corporal falls into a natural chain of command, again, for that team as a whole. They have lieutenant, sergeants, and then corporals. So you're talking about team supervision. And then as that team gets shrunk into smaller units, you want to have supervisors in that role as well. And then you have 3 specialists, which are TAC team members. So to boots on the ground, these are your grunts that are going to go, and it's a highly trained team, but these folks aren't supervising units. We just need bodies to fill these roles and take care of the business as it comes in. So that's where that 1, 1, and 3 came from. And I had a lot of conversations with tactical team commanders, current as well as former, that kind of walked me through what they were thinking about that. And that's how they explained it to me.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Are you in a position to share with us how many specialists there are within the tactical team currently?
It's a good question. We're going to be in the same scenario as EPU, is that I can't give out numbers for specific teams one way or the other, or the equipment that they may carry.
Okay, for lieutenants also? And
Yes, anything to
corporals?
do on the tactical team side, I wouldn't give out any numbers for operational security reason.
Okay, any questions from committee members? Representative Montel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon,
Hello.
Commissioner Sashchuk. Nice to see you.
Likewise.
On either of the initiatives, and I've been listening, is there any way to achieve, if for some reason we didn't okay all of the positions, is there still a way, without full numbers? Or is it like, we have a plan, we need these full numbers? I mean, I
Yeah.
know it's like ideal probably, but
Sure. I think that when we've had those conversations before, at least in past years, we've said, the governor has submitted a budget. We submitted things to her. I'm not saying this is the reality, but I wanted 10 EPUs, right? And we ultimately got 4 in the governor's budget. So that's the budget that we're here to explain and to represent. Certainly on the EPU side, I think the workload is there for all of these positions. How that ultimately fills, if you come back and say, Mike, you get half of that, we're going to have to do the best we can with that circumstance. But our subject matter experts have come back with, this is the number that we think is a good number, a good fit for us, knowing that we're in a tough fiscal year like every other year and all those other things. We have, in my brief time with DPS and with state government, we haven't asked for, the want categories. We've always asked for the need categories. And I think all of these positions fall into that need category.
okay, thank you. Follow up, please. So is this like present needs, or is this also kind of future looking? Like this looks like this is going in this direction. So it's not only what we need now, but it looks like what we're going to need future, regardless of who ends up being our next.
Yeah, I think that the EPU positions are absolutely a now scenario, because with there's approval and then there's a date there and then there's a hiring process and a training process, and then how do we implement those? I would easily argue that Governor Mills is not going to see any of these positions. That's just the nature of state government being what it is in the budgeting process, the hiring process. I do think that the ERPO positions, those red flag positions, I think that lieutenant position is something on the staffing, on the coordination end, is something that would be needed right now. The red flags, we're not seeing 100 of them yet, but we know what happened with yellow. And the concern there is that we're going to get hit, and we're going to get hit in a hurry. And then we're going to be, well, that'd be great. Well, about a year from now, we'll be able to backfill those. So from our perspective, again, it makes sense that we try to hire these, we try to train these, we try to put them in place now rather than in the future.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
To follow up on Representative Montel's question, what happens within DPS if a position like the red flag positions that there ends up not being demand for? Have there been situations in which you have asked for a position that the demand has not met the level of resource?
I don't know of a position in the last 7 years that weren't grant related, that didn't stay once they were approved. If you're talking about 118 activations alone without red flags, I would argue that the workload is there to add 5 additional full-time positions to a TAC team now. The concern is that we add additional things on top of their already heavy workload, that there's going to be an issue there. that would be up to me to come back or somebody to come back in the future to make that argument. I don't know of positions that were given and then returned that weren't grant oriented.
Thank you. Any other questions for the commissioner? No? Okay, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Dowdy, could we invite you up to go over, if folks on the committee can follow on page 3 of the change package, the language about the Garvey bonding, this, I had to look up, so I imagine perhaps some of my colleagues also, are not familiar with it. So I wondered if you could just give us a quick overview of the Garvey bonding process and what that looks like.
Sure, we've been doing Garvey bonding for quite some time. It's really using a dedicated revenue or an anticipated revenue. It's our federal funds from Federal Highway Administration, from the US DOT. So we're bonding against the revenue there. A number of years ago, probably a couple of years ago, we began to kind of shift away from it, trying to use our federal funding as it becomes available and not borrow against it in the future. The reason it's in this budget this time, again, for $50 million in 27, I believe, is for the purpose of, there's a number of things that are causing some uncertainty moving forward, one of which is federal reauthorization. We're expecting reauthorization bill sometime this summer for a 5-year US DOT funding bill that we'd anticipate being effective on October 1st. As we could see from last year, and as you're seeing now with the TSA and Homeland Security, there have been a number of federal shutdowns. A number of bills haven't, either annual funding bills or long-term funding bills haven't moved forward. So we put the Garvey language in really as a cushion against some of that uncertainty. Last year, we had a shutdown on October 1st, and it lasted through the beginning of November, 35 days or so, or 40 days. That was a problem. However, in the background, so our funding comes in two bill sets. One is reauthorization. That's typically a 5-year set. This October will be the last of those 5 years. And then annual appropriations that actually fund that amount, those programs that are in the appropriations bill. Last shutdown, we had the last year of reauthorization. So even though the appropriations bill didn't come, there was a continuing resolution that we're able to kind of keep some funding coming. This year, that reauthorization bill, if that's not funded and that's not promulgated by the end of September, that background funding doesn't exist. So Congress's ability to do continuing resolutions is very limited if it exists at all. So if this shutdown were to occur, we would not receive federal funding. Our federal agencies probably would be shut down. And that funding, we could anticipate maybe being a little bit loaded in November, but we could anticipate, we're running scenarios where that funding may not be loaded as late as February of next year. Again, really depending on how Congress acts. So this Garvey was put in this last, in the change package to give us another one of those cushions to be able to continue to operate. Most of those contracts will have been let within the next month or two. We need to react fairly quickly, and this relates to the 13 million as well. Because once they're let, contracts are out, contractors are buying materials, contractors are mobilizing, contractors are beginning to build. To sever a contract, to delay a contract at that moment would have all kinds of damages associated and would even cost more money. So this is a mechanism we could use it for a number of uncertainties, but the biggest one right now is that threat of a federal shutdown this October through November and probably beyond. Congress may act differently. We may not need to use it, but.
Great. Thank you for that explanation. Does the committee have any questions for the commissioner? Great. Thank you. Do any committee members have any additional questions from either the supplemental or the change package? Seeing none, I'm going to request that we take a short break and hopefully the Senate will be able to join us and we'll move through. Let's plan to come back at 2:30. Yeah. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're gonna jump right back into our work session on 2213. After hearing from the commissioner on a couple of initiatives, I think there is some interest in yes, looking at reference number five, I would entertain a motion to move in the 4 state police detective positions.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any committee discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous of those present. And then reference number 8, Senator Farren.
Madam Chair, after some discussions with the commissioner and looking at staffing levels, I would make a motion that we move in 1 lieutenant position into reference number 5
As well as 1 vehicle.
in 1 vehicle. Reference 8, reference 8.
Okay, so we have a motion of moving in 1 state police lieutenant position and 1 Ford Police Interceptor utility hybrid vehicle.
Second.
Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? And that's unanimous of those present. Representative Perry.
I make a motion to move in the change package stuff that was given along with the language.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Do we need to vote these in one by one or?
You can do it that way. Can I just clarify? There was one piece of language that was actually taken out of the change package, and that was part D related to carry fund language that was in Bureau of Corporations and Elections. It has nothing to do with this budget.
Yes.
So you want also, that motion includes moving that out because you already voted that out of.
Correct. Representative Perry.
Yeah, because in the change package, it says to
Yes.
delete it. So
It's
I was,
deleted.
I
Yeah,
was
so you just,
moving in the
so you're
deletion.
just doing this in accordance with the change package is what you're doing.
Correct.
Moving in or out as accordance, in accordance with this. Okay.
Is there
Gotcha.
any discussion around any of the items we reviewed? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is unanimous of those present.
I'd like to hold off on the count there.
All right, and that is unanimous, including Senator Pearce. Welcome. And yes, Representative Perry.
I make a motion to move, ought to pass as amended, the supplemental highway fund budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about the supplemental? I would just like to thank the committee and all of those stakeholders who were involved in the process. I am proud yet again to have a budget come out of our committee, hopefully with a strong support. See no other discussion. All those in favor? Okay, and that is unanimous. Representative Perry.
I make a motion to exempt it from the table.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. And I believe that ends the work session on LD 2213. We have some language review today. And I would also remind folks that we have our committee lunch tomorrow, following session. Thank you, Suzanne, for all your help.
All right,
All right, folks.
let's get started.
Melanie, welcome. We are going to take our perhaps final look
Yes.
at LD 1457.
This is the final language in front of you. I did email it out earlier and it has been sent to the IP list, kind of following procedures of other language review. Typically with language review, you don't see it ahead of time, but given the length of this, I wanted to send it out. So you can also have an electronic copy. And just as a reminder, this is the majority report. So any members on the majority report, feel free to let me know if there's any language that needs revising. I will bring your attention to page 7, section 10, lines 33 is where it starts. This is the personally identifiable information section. So this was what was discussed following the review in the Judiciary Committee. This language is now incorporated in there. So you have some previous versions where it was different. This should incorporate that, as well as and then on page 9, lines 12, this is section 14. There was discussion last language review about which legislature could report it out, and the language now says that so after the Turnpike gets the report to the committee within 3 months of the pilot program concluding, that the Joint Standing Committee of the legislature having jurisdiction over transportation matters can report out legislation in the next regular or special session after the report has been received.
Does that include a session that's maybe in progress at the time it's received?
I think so. I was asking about that. Yeah.
I apologize. Representative Encles, can you repeat the question?
I asked if that language includes when the report comes that it counting the session that is currently in progress when the report arrives. Or do we have to wait an entire next legislature?
Senator Perrin.
Melanie, wouldn't that be with the wording which may report out legislation in the next regular session? So if you're in that session, would that solve that? You could do it if the legislature was in session.
I think then it gets to the non-specificity. I can add like within the current or next, if that's what the committee is asking. I think that may cause issues. Yeah, it may just cause issues because it could be, it's like pushing it back. So like a committee could then be like, oh, we don't want to take it up this year. We'll take it up maybe next year. It kind of makes it unclear, which I don't think this was like with things being reported out, it's usually very specific, like must be reported out at this time. I think that was the concern with.
And I would perhaps venture a guess that the Turnpike will time the reporting, the end of the pilot, the report back, that they will also be cognizant of what would be necessary to get a proposed piece of legislation before whichever legislature that is. Any additional questions? Anything else, Melanie, that you wanted to draw our attention to?
No, I think this language, you've seen it in many forms. So I just wanted to bring back the final language with the fiscal note, and I'm happy to answer any questions even later.
Senator
individually.
Purse.
So just to go back to that question about that, no later than 3 months following the end of the pilot program. Is the pilot program implied to have ended January 30th, 2028? Or is there a different date in here for that?
There's somewhat of a date. Let me find that exact language. It says it's after this is enacted, the Turnpike has to begin this pilot program within a year. So because it doesn't have a specific date, it did not have a specific date at the end. I just want to, it's page 3, line 12, that's subsection 6. saying that the pilot program must commence within 1 year of the effective date of this resolve. And it has a 3-year limit. So that January 31st, 2028 date was discussed by this committee as like a progress report.
Senator Nangle.
So I understand that we'll get a report at the end of the 2-year, 3-year pilot project. Are there other reports that the Turnpike Authority needs to provide?
You will also, in this resolve, get an auditing report. That's in section 10. Page 8, line, subsection 4, so it starts at line 30. I don't think that's, wait, I don't think that's just.
8 or 10?
Line 34 says.
Yes.
The firm will perform an annual audit.
There it is.
And
And then
provide
the-
a copy of the result of each annual audit to the committee.
Yeah, so to be clear, you get the annual auditing report, that 1 year-ish progress report, like what has the Turnpike been able to do so far, and then the final report.
Okay, but the auditing report, my understanding, the auditing report is the report that covers whether or not they've complied with the privacy. Right? But we
Yes.
don't know what it's actually doing to speeds in the zone, in the work zones.
Representative Perry.
Yeah, I think that's that January 31st date, 2028. That's the progress report that they should come back and tell us everything that's going on and how it's working and all that.
We'll look at, sorry, page 9.
Mike.
Page 9, section 12, line 3.
Representative Senator.
And the other thing is, right, I mean, the committee gets annual updates on the Turnpike overall. I mean, you having the jurisdiction, committee can ask questions anytime they like. But those are the firm, the audit, the January, and then at the end of the program. So there's like 3 different levels.
And to be clear, this program can only go up to 3 years.
Any additional questions or comments on the language? Melanie, does this end the language review time also? Is it concluded for people to give feedback as of right now? No, today's fine. I just wanted to double check. Yeah, this is good.
We don't need more.
Okay, thank you. All set?
Yep.
All right, wonderful. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?